Okay, for the test on Monday. Essentially, we have to write down what is in our calculator. So whenever you're trying to find an angle, it's inverse sine, inverse cosine, inverse tangent. So if I'm going to work with angle A, I have the adjacent and the hypotenuse. That's adjacent hypotenuse, cosine. Adjacent over hypotenuse, 12 over 17. That's really all we got to write down. For angle B, we have the opposite side and hypotenuse. So that's inverse sine equals 12 over 17. And that's what you're typing into your calculator. You type into your calculator. Typing into your calculator to get an angle measure is really your check. The two angles should add up to should add up to 90 degrees. The second one, when there's no hypotenuse, you're using tangent. So the tangent of A is opposite over adjacent, 7 over 8. The tangent of B is opposite over adjacent, 8 over 7. Here, with angle A, you're given the opposite and the hypotenuse. The sine of angle A is equal to 13 over 22. And angle B, for angle B, 13 is adjacent. So for angle B, it's the cosine of angle B equals 13 over 22. Finally, angle A, this is very similar to the first one. Cosine of angle A is equal to 13 over 19. And the sine of angle B is equal to 13 over 19. All right, so after putting the numbers in the calculator, these are your answers. Putting the numbers in the calculator, these are your answers. All right, so when we're finding side, we're using sine, cosine, tangent. We're no longer using inverse sine, inverse cosine, inverse tangent. Okay. So in this case here, if I want to find x, I have an opposite side I'm trying to find an hypotenuse. So that means the sine of 57 equals x over 11. And then I solve for my variable. When the variable is in the numerator, we like that. These we get one-step problems. Not 27, don't randomly change that number. 57. And that's what x equals. Okay. Y, it's going to be the cosine of 57, adjacent to this angle, equals y over 11. We multiply both sides by 11, and we get 11 times the cosine of 57 equals y. Okay, here we get another one where the denominator is going to be given. These hypotenuse is given. So the sine of 28 equals y over 17. I'm just multiplying both sides by 17. 17 times the sine of 28 equals y. Cosine of 28 equals x over 17. I'm going to multiply both sides by 17. And 17 times the cosine of 28 equals x. And that's the work I'm checking. Now, whenever the hypotenuse is in the denominator, you're automatically going to get a variable in the denominator for at least one of them. Here, I'm going to use tangent. The tangent of 23 actually works out, tangent of 73, excuse me. Tangent of 73 actually works out very nicely here. Opposite over adjacent, y over 12. So once again, when my variable's in the numerator, pretty straightforward, one step. Now my variable is going to be in the denominator. It's a two-step problem now. The cosine of 73 is equal to 12 over x. You multiply both sides by the variable, and then you divide both sides by the cosine of 73. That's what I'm typing into my calculator. I don't touch my calculator until I get there. You don't need to. You do the work, then you type it in the calculator. Last one. The tangent of 38 equals x over 12. I multiply both sides by 12. 12 times the tangent of 38 equals x. And then when I'm trying to find my y, we're going to do the cosine of 38 equals adjacent over the hypotenuse, 12 over y. And now this becomes a two-step problem. Y times the cosine of 38 equals 12. And y equals 12 divided by the cosine of 38. Okay. I have 81. Now keep in mind, the closer the angles are to 90 degrees, the bigger the lengths in your sides sometimes, are the biggest discrepancies. So I know a few people thought, like, is this number too high? It's probably not, particularly if your number's closer to 90 degrees or closer to 0 degrees. Okay? So in this case, I'm going to use the tangent of 81 equals x over 22. We're going to multiply both sides by 22. 22 times the tangent of 81 equals x. For the y, that's a two-stepper. The cosine of 81 equals 22 over y. We're going to multiply both sides by y. And y equals 22 over the cosine of 81. Second one, this one has two-step problems. The tangent of 22 equals opposite over adjacent, 20 over y. I'm going to multiply both sides by y here. And I really encourage you, don't take a shortcut here. Work out the two steps. That's your y. For your x, the sine of 22 equals 20 over x. We're going to multiply both sides by x. X times the sine of 22 equals 20. And x equals 20 divided by the sine of 22. As we come down here, the tangent of 68 is equal to x over 12. We're going to multiply both sides by 12. 12 times the tangent of 68 equals x. And that's my answer. When that variable's in the numerator, that's going to make our life a lot easier. Here, the cosine of 68 equals 12 over y. We multiply both sides by y. Y times the cosine of 68 equals 12. And y equals 12 divided by the cosine of 68. Finally, it's always nice when you're given the hypotenuse. The sine of 63 is x over 15. Given the hypotenuse gives us two one-step problems. 15 times the sine of 63 is x. And then cosine of 63 is y over 15. We're going to multiply both sides by 15. And 15 times the cosine of 63 equals y. All right, so these problems, first thing, we got to be able to read and translate what we're reading into the triangle, I should say. So here's my triangle. You're always going to have a right triangle. Angle of elevation, angle of depression will always go here. It's always going to go on that bottom of the triangle to be consistent. Now, a person standing on the ground, here's my person right here, looks at the top of the building at an angle of elevation of 38 degrees, and the building is 80 feet tall. Anytime we have a height, it's always going to be here. How far are you standing from the building? Think about it from a common sense standpoint. If you want to find your distance from the building, you don't measure the distance of you flying to the top. You measure the distance of you to the ground. And now I got to make a trig decision. Tangent of 38 equals 80 over x. and that becomes a two-stepper. X times the tangent of 38 equals 80, and x equals 80 divided by the tangent of 38. In this one, I will get the answer right away. I go to a calculator, and I'm doing 80 divided by the tangent of 38, and I should get 102.40. Next one. Here's my right triangle. My angle of depression is 67 degrees. How high does the ramp go up? This is the height. The ramp is 120 feet long. This is a ramp. If they wanted the base, they would say, how far is the base of the ramp from the wall it's next to, or something to that effect. How long a ramp is right here. The sine of 67 equals x over 120. This becomes a one-step problem. 120 times the sine of 67 equals your x. And we'll go right to our calculator. Sine of 67 times 120. We're going to say this ramp is 110.46 feet long. And that's my answer.